So this video is going to talk about how to scale a graph and put your titles on a graph. So I'm going to look, and my independent variable here appears to be volume. And so for volume, I am going to put that on the x-axis. So volume here, in fact, I'll use red to kind of mark on this. Here's volume, and I'm going to put that on the x-axis. And when I do that, I need to scale it out and use at least half of the graph. So if I count the number of spaces here, I end up with 25 spaces. And so a shortcut some people will use is they'll take the 25, though there's 25 spaces, and they'll take 216 divided by 25. And they'll do that to figure out how many spaces to use. I personally like to use spacing of like 5s or 10s or 50s or 100s because I think it makes my life easier. But if I do this, I get about 8.6. I am not going to space these by 8.6. I'm just going to round it up to 10. So I'm going to start here at 0, and then each one of these is going to be, so this will be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Now, I can continue writing all those out, but sometimes it gets really jammed in there, so I'm going to go 110, and I'm just going to do 120, 130, and then 140, 50, 160, 170, 180, 200, 220, 240. So that's how I'm going to scale that, and I'm going to label my axis as volume, and the unit on it is cubic centimeters. Now for the y-axis, I'm going to look, and for the y-axis here, it looks like there are the number of spaces, and I'm going to count this time by 20s, okay? So it looks like there's about 25 spaces. I'm going to count by 20s. So I'm going to start here. This is 0, and this is going to be 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, okay? So on the other axes, I counted by 10s. Now I'm going to count by 20s. And why am I doing that? Because here I took 467 and I divide by 25. And when I divide 467 by 25 spots, I get 18.7. So again, I like nice round numbers, 10s and 20s, so I round this up to 20, and so I'm going to count by 20s. So I keep going up, 120, 140, 160, 180, 200, 220, 240, 260, 280, 300, 320, 340, 360, 380, 400, 420, 440, 460, 480, 500. And then I have scaled, and notice all of my data will fit in there. 10 up to 467 will fit in there. The y-axis is here, it's mass, so it's mass. So I label that and I give the unit of gram. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say y versus x. So my y-axis is mass in grams, and I do VS for versus, or if you prefer, just write out the word versus, volume, and the unit for volume is cubic centimeters. So that's how I go about setting up, scaling my graph, labeling the axes, and giving it a title.